Hello everyone. I'm here with my very dear friend Belinda, who has been my friend for several years. And we wanted to do this collaboration, we can call it, or this connection. I mean, her and I get on Skype every month or so anyways, just friendship calls. But Belinda is someone who has a very deep and profound embodiment of the divine and connection with the divine. And I also have that. And, you know, since I talk a lot on my channel about connecting to your God self or embodying your God self, I wanted to do just this more personal video. Belinda knows me very well. I know her very well. And we just wanted to talk about our awakening to the God self, which for both of us happened through our attachment to relationships. So, you know, that's very pertinent for my channel. A lot of people know what that feels like. So our real attachment to a person is part of what awoke us to the divine. We want to tell our personal stories of awakening to the divine and how we now continue to embody the divine. And we actually do it in some ways we do it differently. In some ways there's so much similarity, but we do have, we have differences and similarities in our experience with our connection to the divine. So we just felt like this would be a beautiful offering out to the world, just to talk about embodying your God self, your God nature, and what that looks like practically and how we do it.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, Shelly. And I love that we get to share this conversation and something that's come up for us so much. I mean, I so vividly remember when we first met in Bali. And it was because of our similarity that you just spoke about. Yes. It was actually an ecstatic dance. And yes. When I saw Shelly dancing, I was like, wow, she so embodies the divine in her movements. You know, she was just really with her God self in the moment. And that was one of the ways that we bonded. And then as I got to know Shelly a little bit more and about her offerings and what she shares out into the world, I just remember thinking like, wow, you're so authentic in what you do. Because a lot of people share a lot of things, but you know, you occasionally meet some people and it just really hits you. It's like, yeah, I see you and I see you reflecting out and see what you're doing. And yeah, I love that we've been able to continue to connect with this bond that we've had, which I think is so much about embodiment of the divine.
It is, yeah.
Even though we haven't been living in Bali for some time, that connection has remained, because I think that's such a strong thread. All of us are working towards that in our different ways, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whether we know it or not. Because what the human seems to want is that feeling of wholeness or satisfaction within or coming home. And sometimes we don't even know like that's what we want, but it is kind of what we want, to come home to ourselves. And that is really what embodying the divine really feels like. I mean, that's what it is for me. I'm almost positive that's what it is for you. It's like coming home. So, yeah. And just to say, I've told you this before, but one of the things I have always loved so much about you and have been so in awe about you is your devotion. You are so devotional to the divine. You really are so devotional to the divine. And it's just always been so beautiful for me to witness and experience. So I'm grateful for you and our friendship and our
Thanks
connection.
For that reflection. Yeah. And when I met Shelly in Bali, that was a time where I was going to the ashram in India quite a lot. And I was really grateful for that environment in Bali, and just said like, yeah, my number one relationship was with the divine. And that was quite a profound thing for me, considering my relationship or my history of relationships. And I really 100% agree with this feeling of coming home. I talk about that in different ways. Like for me on my journey, part of that was me partying a lot and raving and feeling home because of the ecstatic feelings of partying. And I talk about that a lot on my website as well. But yes, it's this, we're craving this union. And often at the beginning, especially the beginning of a relationship, we really do feel that like that lush union with another person. And I think that's where a lot of our attachments start, because there is that moment where we feel like, oh, I'm home. I've found it. And then things can start to unravel from there if we're not truly home in ourselves. And yeah, I think that's where the journey begins for so many of us.
Right. Yeah. So why don't we share a little bit, because both her and I experienced our awakenings from really challenging relationships, from moving through the experience of being challenged. It's not even necessarily a challenging relationship. It's being challenged by relationship. It's like, oh my gosh, this is really hard to maintain my sense of confidence and self and steadiness partnered. So yeah, do you want to share a little bit about your awakening process and how that happened through a relationship?
Sure. Definitely. For me, it was, when I was in London in 2010. This is when I was really starting to notice that I wasn't feeling as connected in my relationship, but I had so much fear around admitting that to myself and being able to admit that to other people. I felt really trapped. So that
you
was
were married, right?
Yeah. So that was the first kind of, I don't know, symptom, I guess. And I was just like, I had all these feelings of like, it's not 100% right. Because a lot of social conditioning, I thought maybe I'm not working hard enough at this and I need to keep going. And that was really difficult. And I think in a lot of situations in life where it's a relationship or something else, we do get to these points where we feel trapped or we've outgrown them. And then it's this step of, okay, what do I do next? And I think at the time I had a lot of like even egoic fears of like, what will people think of me? And is it just that the grass is always greener and I'm not really looking at this properly? And I was just so confused, Shelly. I look back at my past self and I'm like,
thing, I know.
I was just sharing with you before, like literally I was Googling what should love feel like in a relationship, because there was something inside me that was really saying like, this isn't it. There is more, but my mind was, needing some proof. So I started Googling, I found books all about self-love, and inadvertently that was like the start of like the spiritual awakening and learning about what true love is, which is coming, as you said, like to the God self. So that was a real journey for me. I felt like my whole world had just flipped because my eyes were just opened to things in a whole different way. And my life changed radically after that. Really briefly, like I had the courage to leave my job. I actually left the country. I went out on my spiritual awakening journey because I felt I had something to guide me. Like you said, the God self. That became my inner compass, and I was literally flying on a wing and a prayer. But yeah, I gained so much power from that. And it also, of course, helped me then navigate what is it that I'm really wanting out of a relationship. And I'm sure, as you've told your people many times, it's like whatever you're searching for, you need to embody that. So that was a huge part of the journey. This is even before I came to meet you in Bali. And I feel like that has been navigating me for a long time. Yeah,
it's the recognition that it's not out there. The answer isn't out there. That was a really big part of my awakening. I'll share about my story as well. But yeah, it's like that was one of the biggest aspects that I awoke to. It's not out there. The thing I'm wanting and seeking and searching for and like craving and needing, it's not out there. But like simultaneously with it's not out there, it's in here. Oh my gosh, it's in here. It's been here all along. Everything I need is in here. I mean, that's really, there's so many ways to talk about an awakening process, but that it's like, oh, the love, the wholeness, the completion, the connection, even it's all right here. And then that, of course, you know, what I teach, it's like, then that produces it in the outer reality. But we're not going to, nothing out there is going to be like the puzzle piece that fits it, you know, that makes us whole. It's actually all us. It's all within.
Yeah, and I could just see that in you so strongly when we met in Bali. And I remember one of your early courses, or like on abundance, I was like, oh, nobody talks about that we need to remove the lack inside. And it was like your number one lesson. And I was like, well, you know, this is before you really, really embody everything. And it just exudes in your energy so much. And I think that was why we connected so strongly. And so how did that play out in your relationship story?
Yeah, so I was in a relationship with a man that I was like really in love with in a lot of ways. He felt larger than life. There was a way that I felt not good enough in that relationship. I felt kind of small. And there was a lot of grasping and chasing on my part. He just felt a little elusive. He felt unavailable. And I was I was grasping at him, you know, and that's just the classic egoic chasing that thing out there, thinking the answer is out there. And that's what being caught in my ego felt like. It does feel like a chasing. I mean, I talk a lot about chasing on my channel, and it is that it's like a seeking for, right? A seeking for something out there. And I mean, the way my awakening happened, it like happened in a night. So I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't spiritually seeking or anything like that. I was seeking through psychology. So it's better understanding myself through psychology, but not spiritually. And, you know, on this particular night, this man and I, we had a really awful fight. It actually happened to be Thanksgiving here in the States. And I was like kind of resentful of my family. And I just had like all this baggage, and he and I got in a really awful fight, and I felt so kind of over myself. Like I was hitting a bottom with me, with the way my relationship was going, with, it felt like kind of an exhaustion maybe. And I mean, it was really bad. It wasn't like, you know, I'm kind of brushing over it, but it was just really bad. But I was in a state of, I'm so over all of this. I'm just so over all this. And I was in my home in San Francisco that night. And I remember just feeling kind of shame and self, you know, just like not loving myself, definitely. And for whatever reason, and I think it was because I was pretty surrendered. Like, because there is a part of me that's like, why did this happen to me? But I was surrendered and I was open, but I was over it. And this voice, but it wasn't a voice, but it was like a feeling. It was a messenger through energy came up through me in my heart center and was essentially like, none of this drama and trauma and ickiness is you. Like, none of that is you. There's a centeredness and a wholeness and a light. It was totally heart center. It was all in my heart center that I was getting this message. There's a light, a purity that is the truth about you. And it's right here. And it's always been right here. And it's always going to be right here. And I knew for whatever it like, so it broke me out of this total dark cloud, dark night of the soul. It broke through, and it essentially I knew to follow it. I knew to trust it. And it was the inner knowing, and it totally was the God self. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what happened to me. I started Googling and found out it was a spiritual awakening. Like, I was like, what happened? Something happened. And I soon found out what it was. But essentially it was the essence of truth that said, I will guide you. I will always guide you. I will always show you the way. And like, come with me, basically. Let's go on the best ride of our lives. So, and then I started following it, and then that was it.
Yeah, I really relate to what you were saying there about when we get to a point where we're just tired about wearing stuff. We're tired of not being ourselves, and it really hurts. And a lot of people say, oh, in spirituality, you don't always need a struggle. But I think there is this like innate struggle that we hit this point where, we're not being ourselves, we're not living in our truth. And we get to a point where like enough is enough. And that's when the God self comes through, as you said, like you felt it in your heart, or it comes through as an inspiration to like Google, like we both Googled stuff. How amazing Google. But you have that sense, whether it comes as a feeling or knowing that things aren't quite right, and following that. And such an interesting story. And the other thing I love talking about with my meditation students and everyone I meet is how we cultivate and look after our relationship with the divine or our God self. Because for me, it really is a relationship. It requires, like any relationship, love and attention. And sometimes there are little troughs where things feel a bit icky and you have to work through them because we're evolving and growing. And like, what are your like go-to tools for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because my relationship with my God self is at this point has become so integrated. And actually, the truth is, my practice, I've never had any formal practices like different than you, like meditation. I've almost never sat in like a formal meditation. I mean, I have, but it's from that moment on of the awakening, like what the practice became was listening to my inner resonance and listening to what felt like the truth, and then choosing to follow what felt like, and I go like this, I do this in my videos too. But that's what it feels like. What was that?
The Shelly move. I think we have some photos in Bali.
Yes, totally. Yes.
It's great. It's like,
it's what it feels like.
It's like a laser focused line of like,
it's the alignment. It's like, oh, this is what's real. This is what's real. And then, it soon at the beginning, after my awakening, it takes a lot of courage to follow what's real. Like you're talking about it. It means like leaving things behind, or it did for me. It can mean anything. It doesn't have to mean that, but it meant like following my own path and finally just listening to that and kind of only that. And that in itself is a practice. I have strayed from that. I have not done that perfectly at all. But that's really been the lesson, is like, how do I stay true to what I know is true within? And how do I trust that what's true within is actually what's true for me? And then just live my life by following that the best that I can. That's my only spiritual practice. It's like following what feels true and cultivating what feels true. That's the other side of the coin, is that like when I teach manifesting, it's like you cultivate the felt experience of the desire, the thing that you want, and you feel it in total alignment with who you are. It is who you are. Then we get to play and create from total alignment and total embodiment. And that's my life is full and really beautiful. And it has been, it's included beautiful friends and travel and relationships, and it's included so much fullness, and that really does come from my inner connection to my own fullness. So that's my practice.
Oh, I love that. Yes, and you exude your energy field this fullness so much. And yeah, my path is different. Even though I had kind of moments of spontaneous awakening, especially after I left my relationship like you. I had moments where I had a 2-week kind of peak experience where I just felt ecstatic for no reason. And that was also another guide. But for me as a personality, I've got a really crazy mind. I think a million miles an hour. I always have 1,000 projects on the go. And learning astrology was really interesting for me because I can see how much my astrology like fits in with that. Like I've got a lot of Mercury, Gemini, fast thinker. And because of that, I really love my meditation practice because it grounds me in. It grounds me into myself, and it's my key to kind of get out of my monkey mind when things are crazy. And then cultivating that practice, I say it's like riding a bike. You know, once you start pedaling, you can cruise for a while. So it's not like if I don't meditate for one day that I'm going to fall apart, because that's not a proper spiritual practice either. You're building something like so much stronger inside you. But for me, my meditation's kind of the pedaling, you know? So like if you're saying when things on the outside are feeling like they're falling apart a little bit, or you're like, you know, that feeling, which can be happening for a lot of people right now. For me, that is my sign that I'm going to realign a lot more and really dedicate to my practice. I'm like, okay, if things are looking kind of shaky on the outside, that's because I need to come back in here more. And even that in itself, I love doing like embodied dance flows. When I teach meditation, it's with electronic music. So there's all these different flavors of the divine and how you can dance with it. I really like this analogy of like dancing with the divine and being it. But yeah, I think because of my crazy mind, if I went for a long period of time without meditating, I think I would kind of feel a little wobbly. And of course, as you said, the whole idea is to embody it. We're not meant to be sitting in meditation all day. That's like the long path to enlightenment. We have these moments of, when you're in meditation, connecting to the God self. And then I'm always talking to my students, like at the end of the meditation, never just get up and get on with your day. You really want to circle that juiciness up into every cell, and then let that be your compass. And I think for someone who hasn't had a peak experience yet or things like that, a meditation practice can be really, really helpful, because no one else can do it for you at the end of the day. Like I use this analogy of, you can look at a picture of someone swimming, or even a video of someone like swimming in water, and I can tell you like how the water feels as I'm swimming through it. But until you've swum, you can't say that you've had that experience of swimming. And all of this we're all divine, of course, we all have this in us, but it's really important for everyone to have their unique relationship. Like we've described ours, and your relationship with the divine may look different, and just like take that in both hands. It's your unique individual gift.
And the like, where, even though, you know, I don't have like a formal meditation practice, you have a very, maybe compared to me, a more very formal meditation practice. It's the same thing, and it's going within and making connection within to something that feels, for me, it's a very like it's a felt experience, the connection with the divine. It's like, it's a landing, it's a coming home, it's an alignment, it's a peace, it can be an ecstasy, it can be all these things. Yeah, exactly. And so
that's one of my key ones, I think, for you too. I think we're very similar in that way. We're
totally
ecstatic, very movement, very ecstatic.
Yes, I love being that way. Yeah.
And
So,
for other people, it can be different. I know some other friends who really, they hear a lot or see a lot, and we do have
hmm
these inner senses. So
hmm
I really like to share this as well, because I know I'm not very visual. So when I went to someone and they
yeah.
were doing a visual practice and I wasn't getting it, I was like, oh, I'm not connecting. Like, I don't. So just for anyone watching, like, you'll probably like me and Shelly if you're a fan of Shelly. But there could be another sense. So really open yourself to that as well.
Yeah. Exactly. And actually that also connects into manifesting practice. Some people are more visual with the manifesting practice. Some people are more feelers. I tend to teach from the feeling, the embodiment, because that's my style. That's how I do it. So yeah, there's all different ways to find that connection and be living in that connection with the divine and be embodying it. And you kind of know when you are, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, when you are, it's like,
Oh,
oh,
you don't, like,
it's like, oh, but you don't have to think too much about it. Don't, it's not something, because it can feel like it can feel, especially if you haven't fully felt that yet, it can feel like, wait, what are they talking about? What does that mean? Again, for me, how I know it's a felt experience, it's like an arrival within my own being. I have arrived in this moment, in this experience right here. I'm fully present. So yeah, this is it. And it's also so accessible. It's not this big lofty thing. It's
Yeah,
accessible for
it's
people.
right
It's
here.
so accessible. It's right here. Every moment it's right here. And a wonderful way, after my awakening, a really wonderful way that I started maintaining my connection to God or the divine or whatever we want to call it, was through listening to people who were speaking as Belinda and I are, and are talking about their connection to the divine and are teaching it and are offering from that space, because you can feel the transmission of connection, and then that helps you locate it in yourself and start to cultivate it on your own as well. So it's wonderful to use teachers that you resonate with as people who can offer that inner felt experience for you. And then eventually it becomes so familiar that you are really able to do it on your own. And yeah, that's been part of my experience.
Yeah, I
How
think
about
that's
yours as well?
important, because it does make it feel like it's accessible and what's possible for you. Because, like, I remember a few years ago, I might have thought this was not possible. You just think, oh,
Right.
to be connected like that, I can't do it. But it is our divine birthright, as you said. It's for everyone, and it's just coming back in, isn't it, Shelly? Coming back
Yes,
in, and just
yes,
making this connection the most important thing in your life. And then, like, my latest relationship, the universe totally orchestrated. I didn't have to do anything.
yeah, of
Like,
course.
literally from one side of the world to the other. It was so smooth, and it was just
Yes,
like, because I was feeling so in this place. And I think
yes.
that's then the manifestation, as you're saying, it just
Yeah.
almost becomes like effortless.
Oh, totally. I watched you manifest your relationship, and I remember it was like a few weeks before you were leaving to go to Ibiza, and I was like, and you were like, oh yeah, this guy and I are going to be partnered. And like, it was
I just,
so matter of fact.
you just know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you just knew. It was so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. I feel the same way. It's like the level of connection and ease in relationship through cultivating a practice of connection and ease in oneself. It a practice like this took my romantic relationships absolutely to the next level, beyond anything I had experienced before. And of course it's because it's a reflection of within. So the more connected and whole and home we feel within, the more we're going to create that out there with other people. And that's one of the biggest gifts, honestly. And then friendship as well, right? It's not just romantic partner, but it's like you find your friends. We have like an amazing group of women that we are all interconnected, and deep, soulful friendship and connection. And yeah, that's part of the gifts that we receive from doing this inner work.
Yeah, it changes the way you communicate as well. You learn to, it's like you learn a new energetic language, and it really does help you attract your community around you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I love about all your work, Shelly, with relationship and your commitment to intimacy, even with our friendship. It's just like that kind of commitment. That's what's kept us friends so long, and creating intimacy, not just like superficial kind of conversations. I feel whatever we're talking about, we can go really deep because of that divine connection.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this was so beautiful. I think it will be beautiful for anyone who watches. We would love to hear what you think about our conversation actually below in the comments. Whoever is watching, you can comment below, and maybe we will talk more about this. If you have any questions about connecting with the divine or wanting to know more about these practices, just let us know below, and definitely go check out Belinda's channel. And she has some incredible offerings that she's putting out into the world right now. She's an amazing teacher and also an embodiment of what she's teaching, as you probably can tell. And so, yeah.
Thanks, Shelly. Yeah, I love teaching meditation, and I've also got a fascination with non-causal ecstasy and using electronic music. And for any of my people that don't know Shelly, she is the queen when it comes to relationships and manifesting ideal relationships. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. After knowing her for 5 years and seeing her dedication for what she wants in a relationship, and seeing that coming through in waves over and over. Deep bows, Shelly.
Oh, I love you so much, honey. Yeah, thank you for having this conversation, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.